Calling back all nerds.
Good day, nerds. Welcome to the Nerd Cantina show. I am Ken, one of the hosts here, and I am a nerd. I am a huge nerd at heart, but I often say that I don't have the time in life to really be the nerd that I want to be. It's often tough to keep up with my hobbies and interests while taking care of all of life's responsibilities. But I'm hoping that through this podcast, I can help to keep that inner nerd alive just a bit longer. Joining me today is my brother and founder of the nerdcantina.com, Steve. Hey, Steve, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Steve. I founded the nerdcantina.com under advisement from Ken. I found myself not having the amount of conversation that I would normally like to have about a lot of these nerd subjects. And I started writing them down and putting them on social media and other forms. And we realized that we could take all these thoughts and put them on our own site and start a somewhat community for other people like us, dads or just other nerd types that don't have the time to scour the forums of Reddit and, all the other social media forums that exist, and maybe create a centralized community of nerds where we offer reviews, advice, talk about just trending topics and things like that. I essentially started it because I wanted to create a place for conversation. I'm not trying to compete with the Nerdists and the IGNs of the world. I don't think we're going to get any leaked news from Disney anytime soon, but I do want to create a spot where every article that we post, every podcast that we host is the start of a conversation. So I just want to be the one to start the conversation. I hope that our listeners and readers can join in on the conversation, engage with us, and just feel that they have a place where their opinion is valued. That there's really no downvoting. There's no dislike button. You know what I mean? Just put your thoughts out there, because I found it very therapeutic to be able to take these thoughts and put them out into the ether, out into the world, and just have them out there. I've been collecting comics since I was 20. I had a roommate that was very into comics that got me into it. And ever since then, I've really embraced my nerd side. I was more of a jock in high school and younger. I always enjoyed everything, but I was more shamed. That part of my personality was shamed into the back corner of my lifestyle as a youngin'. So once I hit my 20s, I was really able to kind of embrace being that nerdy kid, and just went off from then. And in the almost 20 years since then, I've made a lot of nerd connections, have had some luck in meeting some really cool people in the industry and things like that. And I want to take all those experiences, all those meetings, and like I said, just put them out there into the world and create a friendly, safe community for people that don't just buy a Batman shirt from Target and call themselves a nerd. Give them an area of the internet to come express their passionate opinions, because most nerds, I think we're all passionate about the things we enjoy, whether it be board games, movies, comics, TV shows. We all have that passion for the people that create these things and the effort that it takes to put them out into the world. So I just wanted to give ourselves a nice place to hang out at, and that's how the Nerd Cantina was formed.
And I know, talking, you started writing views mostly because people valued your opinion to some degree, right? And they were seeking out your opinion.
Yeah, well, I was, as you know, I was a bouncer at a nightclub for 10 years, and I meet thousands of people, every month. And once people really got to know me, they know I have a passion for these things, and I'm a little quick-witted and have a little bit of the outside of the box thought process. And people would come up to me, even if they had their own opinion formed or they'd already seen a movie. They wanted to know, well, what do you think about it? I want to hear you talk about it. Once I got that Movie Pass, when Movie Pass came out, I was seeing 2-3 movies a week. and nobody's seen the latest, B-list movie that came out that week. So I had really nobody to bounce ideas off of or banter with. So I started putting those reviews out on Letterboxd and Facebook. And yeah, that's when you kind of came back and yelled at me and told me, what are you giving free content to people for? You have a monetary, hobby that you're doing here, and you're giving it away for free. Like, what is wrong with you? And yeah, that's the capitalist and my brother. So we took a couple dollars and created the Nerd Cantina and gave us a place to kind of centralize all these things.
Yeah, and I believe people have seen your opinion because you are opinionated, right?
Oh yes,
and opinionated people believe is a bad thing, right? I think by its definition, it's the conceited belief, right?
Well,
having a conceited approach towards your one's belief, I think is what it's actually defined as, and that's not a bad thing, right? Especially when you're talking about people seeking an opinion, I want somebody to be conceited in their own belief, because if they're not conceited in their own belief, then why do they have it? If you don't really believe it's 100% accurate, then what's the point of stating an opinion?
Well, and let's not act like everybody doesn't have an opinion. Like, we all judge things. We all have an opinion. It's human nature. What people, I think, lack is conviction in their opinions a lot of times. That wishy-washy, well, if my opinion doesn't go with the grain of society, then I really don't want to speak up because I don't want to have to defend my stance, and I don't want to have to, go against the mob, essentially, is when it comes to a lot of these topics. And they feel that fear, and I don't disrespect anybody else's opinion. Even as strong as opinion I have, I realize that it's my opinion, and I'm a different type of person, than most people are. So if you have a different opinion, all due respect to your opinion, I just disagree. And that's where it ends for me. A lot of people like to take it a little further and get into, you have people that handle that in personal attacks. You have other people that handle that by just shutting down conversation and things like that. But that's also what brings us back to the goal, is like, I want to be able to have a space where it's just our opinions, guys. No harm, no foul. You know what I mean? I didn't like The Last Jedi. My bad.
Well, and it goes on to the vast majority of the people in the world you're going to ask about an opinion. You're going to get, it was good, or it was bad, or it was okay. And there's no greater critical thinking to an opinion. There's no real actual formation of what you think. There's no segmenting it down to, hey, well, I disagreed with the message, but the production was great and the acting was great, or the artistry was great, or the opposite, right? Hey, it was well produced, it was well made, the message was trash, and it really didn't come out well. But there's no deeper thought to these things. It's people leave it very much on the surface, and you get a lot of these just garbage answers of, it was okay, it was good.
I've come into contact with a lot of friends that they'll ask me my opinion on the movie, and I'll give them all my reasons, and they'll come back with the generic I thought it was good, or I just didn't like it, and I know my friends who have really low standards for movies, so almost every movie is good. Like, look, man, I just 2 hours away from my kids and my wife is anything's going to be good. They'll watch Waterboil and give it 5 stars. You know what I mean? And so, like, I know the people when I talk to the people like that, and I also know the people that I talk to that just over criticize things, like, just you have to take everything with a grain of salt and understand how Hollywood and it works and how TV shows are made and movies are made. And it's like, why didn't they do this or why didn't they do that? Do you know the cost production it would have cost to do that? Like, you have to give these guys a break every once in a while. Like, I know technology has come a long way in movies. It's not the 80s anymore, but still, people have budgets. Actors have certain limitations. Like, let's be real here. Let's not hold everybody to the fire because they didn't revolutionize movie making with every film.
Again, it's the concept of, people are always going to argue, hey, what's better, whether it's the graphic novel or a book, vice a movie, whatever else. And every medium has its strengths and weaknesses, and to ignore those things. It's, again, if people don't generally put a lot of critical thinking into their opinions. They just
I
want to shut their brain off.
Just recently with the Captain Marvel release, you know, and I said that movie had a clear agenda. And I found a lot of people find the word agenda alone to have this negative connotation to it. And it's like, look, no, most people in life do certain things with an agenda. Like, whether an agenda is positive or negative is to be determined in context. It doesn't, you know, just because I say Captain Marvel had a clear agenda doesn't mean they were, you know, it was something negative. You know, like I agreed actually with their agenda. I just didn't think it was done well, you know, but the fact that I even used the term agenda to a lot of people just set them off on this.
Yeah. Just replace the word with agenda with message, right? They had a message they were trying to achieve. It's really no different than saying they had an agenda for the movie. Everybody has, when you set out to create anything, you create it with the intent of communicating some type of message.
What are you trying to get across to an audience? You know what I mean? Like every movie is trying to convey something to the audience, whether it's an emotion, it's a message, it's a life lesson, like whatever it is. Every movie is trying to convey something, you know, and if it's not, it's probably not a good movie, you know? So that's a point on its own.
Well, and that is a good point. Steve, we've talked a lot about the blog so far. Why are we now moving into the podcast, or what are we trying to do with the podcast?
Well, one, we want to be able to touch every medium that suits our audience, you know, so I understand that there's not a lot of people that are going to have time to go to the website and maybe read, or, you know, I mean, we don't write hugely long articles, you know, most of them could be read while on a toilet trip, you know, it's not that intricate, but I do recognize that certain people have certain mediums that they prefer. So I would like to try to at least offer every medium, you know, for people. If listening to us in your car on your way to work is how you want to connect with us, great. Here we go. Here's the podcast. You know, if putting on a YouTube video in the background while you're washing dishes or something like that, if that's how you choose to listen to us, hey, here you go. Here's the YouTube channel. Basically, I just want to be able to connect with our audience. And I realize that having just the website does limit us to a certain amount of people. You know, I do recognize that I'm struggling right now, even with the website, as to how to make it function better for our mobile users. You know, we have a lot of our audiences on mobile. About 70% of our audience comes to us on their phones. But the website looks way better on the desktop. So I'm really only catering to about 25% of our audience, you know, and that's kind of where I'm struggling with the website right now. So to offer the podcast might alleviate that a little bit. Some people that, you know, go to the site on their phone might opt now to just listen to us on the podcast and get the, you know, the gist of the message that we're trying to portray for that week, that month, this medium.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm a avid listener of different podcasts, and really what I'm hoping to be a part of here is we got the reviews. We're bringing people information, giving reviews through the blog, but the podcast, I think, creates a better community feel. Well, people can go in on a blog and they can put comments down in the thread that maybe somebody scrolls down to or whatever else. But here, the podcast gives us opportunity to interview other people, to bring other people on, to engage with other individuals in more of a natural format. I can't articulate my thoughts in writing nearly as well as I can through speaking in a
see,
conversation.
That's where my fears with the podcast come in, is because I am way more intelligent on paper. I honestly think that I have a thought, and then before it comes out of my mouth, it goes through a vulgarity filter where it picks up all kinds of bad words, you know, and then it hits a couple speed bumps in uhs and ahs and does, and then it leaves my mouth. To whereas if I feel when I'm typing an article after I get home from these movies, it just flows exactly kind of how I want to say it and how I wish I could speak at times. So yeah, like I'm hoping that throughout doing this podcast, throughout the time that I can develop a little bit better of a articulation, I guess, in my thoughts. Because the vulgarity filter is always on 10. It's always on 10, and that, you know, that's always a struggle for me in life.
one, I don't think vulgarity is a bad thing here. We'll just have to make sure we hit that explicit box in iTunes or wherever we always those things so we don't get booted off a platform. Again, having the opportunity to interview people and reach out to other nerds, whether it's, hey, the next Twitch sensation, and talk to some people about really like, there's training that goes into that. And I'd love to have a conversation with these people and find out, like, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? What thumb exercises you got going on in your life in order to be able to?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm really interested. We got Matt Bosco coming up on an interview real soon. He's a professional League of Legends player. You know what I mean? And he's getting flown out to Brazil to do commentary for this big Brazilian League of Legends tournament. So yeah, I'd like to hear from his mouth what that be about. Like what kind of mouse do you use in there to get them clicks going, buddy? Like what's really good with all this?
Well, and even things like League of Legends, right? It's a game that most people in the country have no idea what that game is and what's going on around it. And there's such an avid community of people who play and interact through that game that nobody else knows. Like, no, you're not going to Best Buy and seeing on the shelf, the next League of Legends, and there's no release party. There's no nothing for that. But it doesn't change the fact that there are just tons of people who are devoting tons of time into it, establishing like real relationships, right? Friends and networks and all these things through this competitive game that the vast majority of people haven't heard from. And through the podcast, it'd be fun to bring that to other people, talk about some of these deeper sides of nerd culture and nerd life.
Well, and I find too that with the online viewing of articles and reading, that you get a lot of everyone takes it very personal in their solo bubble. They're just like this bubble of them. And when we put out that first Terraforming Mars review of the board game, Terraforming Mars has been out for a few years, and the first people commenting are just like the avid board game people. They're like, why are you reviewing a game that's a couple years old? And it's like, well, look, buddy, like there's probably 100 million people that have never heard of this game. Like, I wasn't specifically writing this article for you. I hope you enjoy it. I hope that if you've played the game, maybe agree or disagree. And I'd like for you to come into the conversation. But I found that a lot of people online wanted to almost shut that conversation down because, well, I've played this game a million times. All right, cool. Then I wrote it for the dude next to you that has no clue about the next board game he wants to buy, and all he's played in his life is Sorry, Mousetrap, and the Game of Life. You know what I mean? Like, I find that online there tends to be a lot of the community that likes to put a roadblock in conversation, and I'm hoping that the podcast, along with like our voicemail where you could leave, your opinions and things like that, I'm hoping that it becomes more of an open highway of conversation, or at least encourages that open highway of conversation.
Yeah, you mentioned the voicemail. And if you go to the nerdcantina.com, you'll find a voicemail link on there. It's a simple phone number. What we're hoping to happen here is those of you nerds who are passionate about something out there, if we misstep, come and tell us. If you disagree with an opinion,
drop the hammer, man. Come on with it. Come on with
it. we would love to again, as we're trying to establish a community, is to play audio from individuals, or reach out to you if you leave us a voicemail that has some dissenting opinion, that we can have a phone call and we can record that and have it, but that be a part of the podcast. I'm not trying to be the talent here behind this podcast and everybody listens to what I have to say. We're just trying to start a conversation.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I'm not going to try to claim to be an authority on anything. You know what I mean? Like, I consider myself an intelligent person and a passionate, person, but I will never claim to be the authority on why you should have this opinion. If you agree with me and you like, what I usually have to say, and you want to consider me authority, I take that as a huge compliment. I really do. But never once will I be the one to come out and say, well, no, you should like this movie because I liked it and you should like it too. And I know more than the average viewer, so you should just take my advice and go watch this. Like, no, all I'm trying to do is start the conversation. So if I think a movie or a show is bad, or if I think it's good or bad, I'm not telling you that because I want you to share my opinion. If you have no opinion, take it with a grain of salt and give it a try. But if you have an opinion that differs, I want to know that too. I want to know why you disagreed with me. I want to know why you thought it was a good movie. Maybe you could shed some light on it for me, and I might change my mind. Not likely, but I will hear you out, and I will ponder it. And I like I said, it's about starting conversation. It's not about being a know-it-all. It's not about come hear our opinions because we want you to have them. I'm just trying to start the conversation.
And that takes us to another direction we're hoping to go through is the Fight Me episodes, right? And we're trying to
looking forward to those.
Tap through your vulgarity filter there as we get into some heated debate.
Crank up the passion level, loosen up the vulgarity filter, and just really drop some F-bombs and what the hell are you talking about? And yeah, the Fight Me Fridays are sections that I'm going to really look forward to.
Yeah, so hoping to roll those out here soon because we have internal debates where those of us contributing to the nerdcantina.com are not necessarily always in a line. So we fight regularly about the topics we discuss. And then as well, we're hoping to pull
some of these comment threads and put you all on blast. That's for sure.
And then we're hoping to pull some of the listeners as well as individuals that we interview that we have different opinions. And let's get some heated debate on why certain things suck.
Let's be honest. There's a lot of suck out in the world. There's plenty of that to go around, and I'm sure we can find somebody that liked it.
Well, Steve, I think we've painted a pretty good picture of what we're trying to do here, both through the nerdcantina.com, what you've done in the past, what you'll continue to do there on the blog, but as well as the community we're trying to create here through the podcast. Hopefully the listeners here of episode 0 stick around for episode 1 through however far we can go, as well as the Fight Me Friday episodes that we'll start putting out here soon. Again, the goal is a community. Reach out, send us emails, send us voicemails. Let's engage together. Let's have some conversations, interesting conversations on all things nerd culture. We talked a lot about movies today, but we're looking at video games, comics, a space research, right? Whatever falls in the realm of the general nerd. It's all things that we find interesting. And ultimately, this podcast is selfishly just a place for me to talk about things I care about and I like. And then hopefully an audience agrees somewhere down the road. And if not, then at least I had a good time.
Yeah. I definitely want to make sure that people subscribe now. I hope that if you're listening to episode 0, you subscribe and you can watch us grow as we will be getting better at this. Production levels will go higher. Our efforts will intensify. Our talent will get better, and I'd really enjoy for our audience to be a part of that, to go from 2 dummies with boom mics to an actual table where we meet up and an actual kind of setups and things like that, where we're putting our best effort in now. But as the site grows and our audience grows, the Nerd Cantina will also be growing and getting better too. And I hope that our audience can be a part of that, and we can all look back a year or 2 from now and say, look at these 2 dummies, episode 0. Can you believe that?
So yeah, hit the subscribe button in whatever player you're using. Join us on a little bit of a journey here. Bear with us and grow with us here through episode 1 to infinity as we continue to bring you unique content, unique perspectives, interviews, as well as we will be reviewing and talking over some of the newer things that maybe you've never heard of.
That's sounds good to me. I'd be able to call it a wrap. So I'll see you guys in episode 1.